So this morning's call is really all about best practices and then answering any of the questions that you have or concerns that you have as we transition from Dotloop into DocuSign. As we go through the call, feel free to ask any questions in the chat box. I'll pause throughout the session this morning to answer those questions. And then if there is anything that's time sensitive, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt me. I want to make sure that you walk away from this class this morning feeling much more comfortable and confident using DocuSign, knowing that we only have 1 week left until our contract with Dotloop runs out. So I'm really going to hit on the highlights and best practices, the key things to keep in mind as you are working and putting together your first contract in DocuSign. So one of the most important things that you'll need to keep in mind when using DocuSign is that you need to start your room from within command. And the way you're going to do that is when you create an opportunity in command. See here we have our details tab, seller profiles tab, and then our documents tab. Click on documents. And you'll see here the button right here in this toolbar says start a transaction. You want to make sure you hit the start a transaction button from within command because that is what will link your DocuSign room to command. And the main benefit is going to be that you will no longer have to manually download and then upload your buyer brokerage agreements, purchase and sale agreements, listing agreements into command for compliance review. You'll be able to select your documents from DocuSign directly in command. And I'll show you how to do that as well. If you start a room in DocuSign directly, you will not be able to connect that room to an opportunity within command. So then you would be stuck having to download and then upload those documents each time to submit for compliance review. The same thing also goes for Dotloop. If you've created an opportunity and you started a loop from within command, you won't be able to switch from Dotloop to DocuSign halfway through that contract. So let's say if you have a loop going right now that doesn't close until, let's say, June 30th, and you've already started it in Dotloop, come next Friday, you will have to start manually uploading your documents into DocuSign because you won't be able to connect DocuSign to command. So very, very, very important that you start a transaction from within the opportunity. So I'm going to click Start a Transaction so I can walk you through the process and the best practices of what to do once you are in DocuSign. So I'll click Start a Transaction, and DocuSign will open up in a new browser window. DocuSign will have you log in, so if you get this screen, don't worry, you are fine. So I'm logging in, and then you'll see that I've now created a new room that has the same name as the opportunity in command. Now, if you want to change the name of your room in command or of your opportunity in command or your room in DocuSign, you can, you're fine. It's going to be the ID number that connects DocuSign and command. So as long as that doesn't change, you're good to go. Now, if this is your first time opening up DocuSign, you're going to have to confirm your NRDS number. And this is the number that lets DocuSign know that you are a paid realtor, that you are a member of the Atlanta Realtor Association, Georgia Association of Realtors, and National Association of Realtors. Because our GAR forms are copywritten, we have to have permission to use them. And that NRDS number is the way that DocuSign will confirm and validate that you have the right to use those GAR forms. There are two ways to confirm your NRDS number. The first one is going to be when you first log into DocuSign, you've created a room. You can come up here to the Add button, and you can click on Add, and then select DocuSign Forms. Now, I've confirmed my NRDS number, so it's not going to show up on my screen. But in just a moment, you'll see there's a window that pops up here. If this is your first time, you will have two images. that'll show up. One will be the realtor logo, and then one will be like a Northwest MLS. What you'll do is you will click on the realtor logo. That will then take you to another pop-up window that will ask for your NRDS number and for you to select your Georgia Association of Realtors. If you don't know your NRDS number, which I don't expect you to, I don't think I've met an agent yet that knows their NRDS number. There is a link right here, kind of towards the bottom of that box, that says look up or find NRDS number. You can click on that and it will open up a new browser window that'll ask you for your license number, your last name, and your email address, or any combination of those three pieces of information, and it will look up your NRDS number. From there, you can copy that, so highlight it, copy it, and then come back into DocuSign and paste that NRDS number into this window, and then you'll have to scroll through the long list of all the realtor associations all the way to the bottom, and the Georgia Association of Realtors is probably like 8th from the bottom. It's not in alphabetical order. I don't know. So select that and then hit validate, and then another window will ask you a pop-up and you'll hit accept on that, and that will confirm your NRDS number. And once you confirm your NRDS number, you will now be able to add the Georgia Association of Realtor documents and use them. The other way to do it is when you're in DocuSign Rooms, come up to the top right-hand corner. If you haven't added a picture, it'll show your initials, but a little circle up here in the top right-hand corner. You'll click on that and then click on Preferences. And this will take you to the profile preferences. And if you scroll down just a little bit, over here on the left-hand side, we'll want to select integrations. And then we'll scroll down just a little bit. And then here we have our NRDS number. So if you don't have your NRDS number in here, again, you can search for it. You can paste it in here and confirm you're a member of the Georgia Association of Realtors. You will not be able to use DocuSign if you do not confirm your NRDS number. You will not have access to the GAR forms, so you won't be able to use it. So make sure you confirm your NRDS number before you try to do anything. If you have trouble with that, let me know. We can either troubleshoot that this afternoon during the office hours, or we can set up a time to fix that. While we're in preferences, there's something I want to show you as well. So if we click back over here to our profile, down here towards the bottom of the screen, it allows us to update our time zone. Now, every agent that I've worked with has had a different setting here. Some of them matches your computer setting. Some of them have been on Pacific Coast time. Some have been on Central time. Make sure that you select your time zone as Eastern. This will make sure that the date and time that you sign your documents is correct. It'll also update the time that your clients the time that they sign as well. Because I've worked with a few agents that have been having some difficulty with the signature times between themselves and their clients being on different days or hours apart, even though they signed within minutes of each other. So update your time zone here as well. And then make sure you hit Save Changes. So now that we have confirmed our NRDS number and updated our time zone, let's go back into the room that I created. And to do that, we'll select Rooms. And then I'm going to select 1234 Main Street Northeast, which is the room that I just created this morning. It is a test account. So when I jump in the room, you will see here on the right-hand side, it'll have Tony Stark, a cell phone number, and an email address. This is the information that I put in the contact card in Command. So DocuSign does pull through a fair amount of the information from Command. That being said, you need to double check and make sure that all of that information is correct and input. If you do not have your client's information and your email address in the Details tab, you won't be able to send documents for signature. And it'll also prevent you from properly assigning signature fields in the envelope. And we'll talk through all of that as well. So got a question. That was a command guest card. So that was the command contact card. So when you're in command and you add your contacts in the contacts tab, all that contact information does get pulled into DocuSign. So for this example this morning, I created a listing because I want to show you how to use the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure. But everything that I do on the listing side is the same for the buyer side as well. So for me on the listing side, I want to double check and make sure that the seller's information is in here correctly. So I'll come over here and I'll scroll down and make sure we have seller 1, Tony Stark, seller 2, Pepper Potts, and you can see there's the email address. I just used my personal email for this example. And then I scroll down, and I have listing agent, which would be myself. Here's my phone number, email address. Okay, business address. All right, so it looks like some information here is missing, so I'm gonna edit this. But while we're scrolling down, I do wanna show you, you have the opportunity to add a listing agent number 2. And then if you are representing the buyer, so if you are the selling agent, you have to add in the information here for buyer 1, scroll down, buyer 2, as well as your buyer agent information. I don't know why the layout of DocuSign is the way it is, but all of the client information is on the right-hand side and it is pretty far down the page. So to make any edits to this page, we'll click on the edit button up here in the top right-hand corner. Now, editing the details tab is going to be very, very, very important because this is going to be the information that gets pulled into our documents in the Documents tab. DocuSign does not pull in information from FMLS like .loop does, which is frustrating. And I know is a big time saver, but we'll work around it and we'll all get used to it. So here, as we are updating information, we will also want to update the location address. So I will just type in 1234 Main Street Northeast in Atlanta, Fulton County. I'll select Georgia, 30342. Property type, residential detached, year built, let's do 2006. And there are no special circumstances. All right, I don't want to go through, just for time's sake, I don't want to go through and fill in all the rest of the information for the listing, but fill in as much of the information as possible. But I do want to scroll through and just double check. I have my seller's information, email address, seller 2, email address, come down to myself, Keller Williams, First Atlanta. Looks like we're missing the city, so let's add that in here. Country, United States, state, Georgia, and postal code 30342. Now, if you wanted to add in your co-op agents in here, by all means you can. You don't have to. So once you've added all of your information, click Save in the bottom right-hand corner. Perfect, so the room has been updated. Before I jump into the Documents tab, I want to say this. When we go into Documents, if we update any of the pre-populated information, it will update that information in the Details tab. So if you delete an email address out of the listing agreement, it will delete the email address out of the Details tab. So then when you go into envelopes to try to send that document out for a signature, there won't be a signature there or an email there to send it to. So you just need to be mindful, and I'll reiterate that once we go into the document as well, but just be mindful that all the information that is pre-populated will be updated accordingly in the Details tab. So to go to add documents, we'll go to the Documents tab. And to add documents, we will select the Add button up here in the top right-hand corner and then select DocuSign Forms. Now, sometimes DocuSign is a little slow and you'll get this gray screen. If you do get that gray screen, just let it sit for a minute. I promise the pop-up window will show up and you will be able to select your forms. Just give it a minute, it's not frozen. So you want to select the DocuSign Forms library. The other option is DocuSign Forms Group. And Group is not something that the MCA office has put together yet, but that will be your groups of documents. If, like say, you could have a listing packet, a buyer's packet of all the forms that you would likely need for that. The MCA office is working on putting that together. I don't know when. It'll probably be over the next month or so, but we wanted to make sure that everyone was fully comfortable working in DocuSign before we started to put together those group of documents just yet. So we select DocuSign Forms Library, and then we will select our library, and we'll select the Georgia Association of Realtors. I don't know why the Greater Alabama MLS is in there. Just ignore it and select GAR forms. And this will pull up a list of all the GAR forms in DocuSign. Let me reiterate that. It'll pull up a list of all the GAR forms in DocuSign, which is a lot of forms. I would recommend that you start to learn the form number of the forms that you regularly use, because a lot of the forms have similar names, and I have found myself a handful of times, more than I would like to admit, pulling the incorrect purchase and sale agreement or seller's property disclosure, pulling in the commercial version or a condominium version. So learn the form numbers, and that'll be your a big saving grace for you, just to make sure to avoid any errors. So for today's example, I'm going to show the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, because those are two documents that our clients actually fill in. Then I also want to show you how to update an amendment, because the process in DocuSign is a little bit different than in .loop. So I'm going to pull up those forms. So I'll pull up seller's property disclosure. So you can see here we have the condominium version, the land lot, new construction. And so I'm going to select form F301. So when I select it, you can see down here in the bottom, it updates to one form selected. I then am going to search the community association disclosure, which is going to be F322. Now it lets me know there are 3 forms selected. And then I also want to add an amendment. So I will select F701, amendment to agreement. I would recommend that you add as many of the GAR forms at one time as possible, just to avoid any delay if you do get that gray screen, that it may take a minute or two. So rather than adding each form individually, you can save a little bit of time that way. So I will select add, and then those forms will be added to my room. When you look at these forms, you can see here that they are actual forms, because you have this icon here with the bottom, it's blue and it says form. DocuSign is a little bit different than .loop in that forms are really templates, and that you only have to add it one time to your room, and then you can update it as many times as you want, and it won't affect signatures on any previously signed documents. So I will show you and explain that in just a minute. So well, actually, let me show you a purchase and sale agreement just really quickly. Just in that way you can get an idea of how to fill in a document really quickly. This is F201. So let's just do F201, purchase and sale agreement, and click add. So I will add that to my room. So here we have our GAR purchase and sale agreement. And I'm just going to quickly show you how you'd edit a purchase and sale agreement. So to open it, just click on it, and it will open up this new window. So you can see here, it pre-populates the information that I added to the details tab, but you will be responsible for going through and adding any additional information. So offer date. So today is the 29th, so we'll do 5/29/2020. And then you just go through and click and fill in the information as needed. Purchase and sale, purchase price $425. So one thing I had a conversation with an agent about is that you can't put commas in the sales price. So it's a pain in the butt, but you can't. And then closing costs, $5,000. Closing date, let's do 6/30, 2020. So you just go through here, and just as simply as I'm going through, you just type in the information, select everything that you want, and you'll be good to go. Now, like I said earlier, this information here where it says 1234 Main Street Northeast, if I edit any of the text in this purchase and sale agreement, it will edit the text in the details tab, which then will affect all of the information that gets pulled into other documents. So be very mindful of making any changes to any of the pre-populated fields. And you'll scroll down. All right, and you can see here, we have seller 1, name, email address, seller 2, name, email address, and then my information. Now, we are working with DocuSign to get all of these fields auto-populated with our license number, brokerage number, office code. Until then, you do have to manually type it in every single time. Or if you were sending out a ton of offers, you can create a template. And I did a class last Thursday on how to create a template. And that way it'll be already pre-populated for you. So once you were good adding all the information, just click save and close. And that will save all the updates that you've made to that purchase and sale agreement. All right, so the next things I want to show you is the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure, because originally those forms were not working properly, but they have been updated. So you can now share them with your seller clients and they can fill them in from within DocuSign. So what we want to do is just click on the document and make sure there are no fields that we need to update. And if there are, that everything is correct. So you can see here, it added in the property address. We don't need to add an exhibit number yet, but you can see everything else in this document for us, we're not able to change. That's because these fields are all mapped for seller 1 to fill in. So we'll just scroll down. Everything looks good to go. I do want to point out that on the bottom of the first page of every GAR form, it says this form is copyrighted and may only be used in real estate transactions in which blank is involved as the real estate licensee. We are working with DocuSign to have them auto-populate this field. Until then, I just want to point it out because you do need to manually add your name in here in the envelope section. So we'll just continue to scroll down. We'll see that we don't have access to change anything else, so we should be good to go. Perfect. Seller 1, seller 2. Hit save and close. And then also quickly do the same thing for the community association disclosure. Just make sure that everything populated correctly. All right. So again, here you can see that I don't have access to change or select anything because I'm not mapped to be able to do that. Again, bottom of the first page of the GAR forms, pointing that out. All right, scrolling. Perfect. So we'll hit save and close. So when you are ready to send a document for signature, you have to create an envelope. And Michael New gave me the analogy of thinking of an envelope in DocuSign really like a manila envelope, where you put your documents into that manila envelope to then hand it to someone else and say, please sign these documents. It's just a way for you to organize those documents and send them for signature. There are 2 ways that you can create envelopes. The first one is when you are in the documents tab of a room, you can roll over the document you want to select and the circle appears in the top left-hand corner and you can click that and select it. So I'll do community association disclosure and seller's property disclosure. So those are the two documents that I would want to create an envelope for. And then when you select a document, this toolbar will appear in the top of the screen. And you can select DocuSign. That will then create an envelope for you and put you right in the envelope part of DocuSign. The other way to do that is to go into envelopes and then select new in the top right-hand corner. And this is the screen where you create an envelope. And we'll just start at the top and work our way down. So envelope name, I'm just gonna name this 1234 Main Street Northeast, seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure. The envelope name is just for yourself, so that way you can keep track of it. I recommend that you do title your envelope something that you can keep track of, because you will be sending multiple envelopes throughout a transaction, because you'll probably be sending the listing agreement at one time, offer at one time, an amendment at another time, stuff like that. So just keep track of it. Name it something that you'll be able to recognize. Now we want to add documents to the room. So for add documents to the envelope. To add documents, we will want to select Room Docs. So we'll click on that blue tab, and then we'll select the documents from the room that we want to add. So we're going to add the community association disclosure and the seller's property disclosure, and hit Add Selected. Now, if you wanted to reorganize the order in which these documents are signed, you do that here. So let's say I want the property disclosure, seller's property disclosure signed first. So I just click on it and drag it forward, and it will, well, I guess I'll just switch this one back. And you can see that way you can reorder the documents. Now, if you also want to add the affiliated marketing disclosure and the wire fraud prevention document from Keller Williams First Atlanta, the way you add those is you're going to click Use a Template here in the envelope, and then you'll select Shared with Me. And the reason they're shared with me, because these are going to be the documents that the MCA office has put together for us as agents in the office. There are two versions of the affiliated marketing and wire fraud disclosure. You can see there's a buyer version here, and if you scroll down, there's a seller version. You need to make sure that you select the correct version based on which side of the transaction you are working on, because the signature fields are mapped accordingly to who you are representing in this transaction. So for me, I'm working on a listing, so I would be representing the seller, so I would select the seller versions of those. For today's example, I'm not going to select those because I just want to show you how to use the disclosures. So I'll exit that. And now we're going to add recipients to the envelope. So to do that, we'll click Add a Recipient, and then we will select Pre-tagged roles. It is extremely important that you select pre-tagged roles. If you do not select the pre-tagged roles, your seller will not be able to fill in the information. All of the fields on the community association disclosure and the seller's property disclosure are mapped to pre-tagged roles. So that's why it's very important that you add in your client's information in the Details tab. So when we come here to create the envelope, everything is in there correctly. So we will select pre-tagged roles here. So I'm representing the seller, so I'll select seller 1, and I'll scroll down to Tony Stark. And I am representing seller 2, which is Pepper Potts. So I would select Pepper Potts. Now you see here, there is not an opportunity for me to select myself because there is no place on these two documents for me as their listing agent to sign. So don't worry about it. Now I will do that for today's example. I'm not going to select a seller 2 because I don't want to deal with having to sign into my personal email to sign everything. So just know that's how you would add seller 2. But for simplicity, for today's example, I'm only going to include seller 1. So I will hit Add Selected. You can see here it adds Tony Stark as seller one, has the permission to needs to sign. And then we'll scroll down and we will update our email signature to please DocuSign 1234 Main Street Northeast, SPD and CAD. And then write a quick message in here, please review and sign. So once you have done that, we will click on next, and that will take us into the envelope where we can start to double check the signature fields, add any missing information there. So before we jump in here, a couple things I want to point out. In the top left-hand corner, there's a drop-down menu. You can see right now it says Tony Stark and it has a yellow dot next to it. There is a drop-down menu here, and this will show every single person that is going to be signing this document. And it'll have a different color code, different color for each signer. So with today's example, it's just Tony, so it'll just be yellow. But if you have a place to sign as their agent, or there's a seller too, it would show up here. So then you can toggle between each signer to make sure you're adding the correct signature fields. So we've selected Tony, and then over here on the right-hand side, you can see it has yellow tabs on the thumbnails of the document, and that lets us know that on that page, there is a place for seller one, for Tony Stark, to fill in or sign. And you can scroll through the thumbnails, and you can see those yellow tabs on all the pages. Now we can scroll through the pages here to double check and make sure everything is input correctly. So scrolling through, and then you can see once we get to the seller's property disclosure information, all these boxes are highlighted yellow. All of the radio buttons are highlighted yellow, and that is to say that these fields are for the seller one to fill in. Now, if you click on this text field, the toolbar here on the right will show up. You'll notice that it is not a required field. That is not checked. I want to call that out because DocuSign is similar to .loop, where it will have your clients go from signature field to signature field to signature field. It will jump from required field to required field. Since the text information on the seller's property disclosure is not required, the system will just jump past it. So you will need to remind your seller to go back and fill in the information. So you can see here, all this is yellow, good to go. We're missing our name here. Now, traditionally, if we had a place to sign on this document, I would just select myself from the drop-down menu here and then select name. But since I don't have that option with the seller's property disclosure, I will just select text, come over here, format that text, and then you can just start typing in here, and I'll type in my name. And I can make this just a little bit smaller because it's pretty big. All right. And you can see over here, it does automatically check it as required field. So I'm going to uncheck that so it's not required, and I'm going to make it read only because I don't want my seller to be able to edit this field. Perfect. So now I've added my name, so I have the right to use this form. So just continuing to scroll down, we have all these text boxes that are able to be filled in by the seller. We're scrolling down. There's all the radio buttons. Perfect. And then you can see here, there's a place to sign, and then here's date signed. Now, since I did not include seller 2, just for today's example, you can see that's why there's not an option for Pepper Potts to sign here. All right? And then we'll continue scrolling down to our community association disclosure, and it is the same setup here with all the boxes. Radio buttons, yellow for, for seller 1 to fill in. Again, pointing out at the bottom of page 1 of the GAR form, you need to add your name, but for time's sake, I'm not going to do that. So we'll just continue scrolling through. Make sure everything's good to go. And then we have seller one initials right there. Perfect. Before you send, you can always double check the recipient preview by clicking this button up here in the top right-hand corner. And this will let you see what your client will see when they go to sign, either on a computer, an iPad, or their phone. And this will show you exactly. So you click start, and you can see how it jumped past all of that text for the seller's property disclosure and went straight to the first required signature. And then went straight to the required signature or the initials on the community association disclosure. That's where you have to remind them that they need to go back up and fill in that information. Now, this is 100% a preview, just so that way you can get an idea of what it's going to be like. When you're done with the preview, click on the X in the top right-hand corner, and that will close the preview. And now we can hit send. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch screens into my Safari to show you what your client will receive through my other, for my KW Tech email. So let me switch screens here. Here we go. So I've now received an email from myself via DocuSign. Please DocuSign 1234 Main Street Northeast SPD and CAD. You can see here's my picture, my email address, and here's my little message that says please review and sign. So I will click review. So it'll open up a new window. I'll just click allow and then select agree and use electronic records and signatures, and then click continue. So I will select start. And when I select start, it's going to jump me straight to the first required signature field. So that's why I was telling you, you need to let them know they need to scroll back up and fill in this information. So they have, your seller one has access to sign or fill in this information. So what year is this? The house was built in 2006. Is the property vacant? No, no, no. So they can just go through and select all this information. Looks like our name here did not add. So I'll double check that in once it is signed. So just, you can just select these. I'm not going to go through and select everything just for time, but I just want to show you how easy it is for them to write in information, Perfect. HVAC system, 8 years old. So that's all they have to do is just go through and fill in this information as correctly as possible. All right. So we'll just scroll down, and I will sign. Perfect. It'll ask me to adopt and sign. And then it's going to do the same thing for the community association disclosure. It will bypass all the fields I need to fill in. So I will scroll up and have them fill in the information. Now, because this isn't required fields, the seller doesn't have to fill in everything. They just have to fill in the fields that are relevant to them. HOA name. And one thing I really like about DocuSign is that you can hit tab and it'll take you to the next box. So you can just type in person's name, tab, management company, 4044. So you can see how easy it is for them to fill in the information. They just need to remember to fill it in. And then you can just scroll down to the bottom and they can initial. And then hit finish. It'll ask them if they want to create an account to save a copy. Just have them hit no thanks. Perfect. So now we are all done. So I'm going to go back to my email, because what will happen is I hit refresh and DocuSign automatically sends the completed signed copy of the documents out to everybody that has had to sign them. So it saves you a step from having to download them and email them out like we had to do in .loop once they were signed. So I can click on here and my seller one can view the completed documents. So you can see here's all the information. Perfect. So I'm going to go back into DocuSign and show you our next steps there. So let me switch screens. All right. So back in DocuSign, in the envelopes, I can hit refresh. We'll see that envelope has been signed. I'll come back into the Documents tab, and now we'll see there's a green checkbox for the community association disclosure and the seller's property disclosure, and those are the signed documents. So if you click on it, it'll open up a PDF of that document with all the information that your seller one filled in. So you can see here it's showing up, and there's the initials. If you want to rename this document, so you can click on document actions up here and you can rename it, you can split it, you can move folders, you can copy it, you can email it directly, you can also download it. So if you want to download it to then send it to, or to upload it into FMLS or send it to a buyer's agent, you can do that here. And you can hit X, and the same thing for seller's property disclosure. It's all filled in. And there's the signature. Perfect. I do want to point out here that you see we have community association disclosure signed, and then we have our form. I could still go back and make edits to the form, and I'm going to show you how that works now. So I want to quickly show you how to use an amendment, since I know most people have more than one amendment. In DocuSign, you can only add a document or a form to a room one time. So in .loop, every single time you wanted to add a new amendment, you would have to search for the form and hit add amendment, and you could add it as many times as you wanted. That's not how it works in DocuSign. So what I'm going to do is I will open up the amendment to agreement, and then I'm going to fill this in. I'm going to make this agreement 1 with today's date of 5/29/2020. Fill this in, buyer 1. Here is my amendment. More text here. Perfect. And then here will be my seller 1 signature. It added my brokerage name, and then I need to quickly add that I'm a member of the Atlanta Realtor Association, and I will just hit save and close. Perfect. So now I filled out my amendment 1. I want to send it out for signature. So I'm going to hit, I'll select it. And then for example, this time I'm going to select DocuSign, and this will drop me directly into the envelope. Envelope name, be consistent. So we'll do 12334 Main Street Northeast, amendment 1. It's already added the document here. Now I add recipients. Be sure to select your pre-tagged roles. I'm going to do seller 1. I'll do Tony Stark. And then listing agent, I will select myself. Now you're probably going to be in there 2 times. That's fine. Select either or. It's because you've added yourself as the listing agent, but then DocuSign also adds you as an owner agent for every single room. So pick whichever one you want. And then just for example, for today's example, I'm not going to select seller 2. And then add selected, review, and sign. So I added my quick message, and then I'll click on next. Oh, that was weird. Why didn't that work? Oh, perfect. Okay. Sorry. it did not add the people in fast enough. So now it's added Tony and myself, both need to sign. This box here on the left-hand side, they both have 1 in it. That means that this document is going to go out to the both of us to sign at the same time, rather than you can set permissions for the seller to sign first and then myself to sign. So got a question. Are you going to show us how to add an admin or a TC to a room? Yeah, I can show you that towards the end. It's a little bit different than DocuSign, but yes, I will show you how to add an admin. All right, so now we've added our recipients. We have our message. Click next. I am breezing through this since we did walk through this before. All right, perfect. So you can see here we have Tony is purple. Ah, that's weird. Why is he in there twice? Let me come back real fast. Tony should, okay, so Tony's in here twice. So let's remove the second Tony. Delete. Perfect. Click next. All right, so now it just has myself and Tony. So scrolling down, you can see Tony is blue. May just need to move some of these fields because they're mapped slightly incorrectly. Perfect. And then for the GAR form down here, you can just select yourself as the listing agent. And then if you select name, you can just put name right there, and it will autofill your name when you go to sign. So I will click send. And that will send it to both Tony and myself as a listing agent at the same time. So I'm going to do really quickly, just go into Safari and sign this really quickly. There's DocuSign. Wow. So I'm just signing this. I know you can't see it, but just because there's one signing field. Perfect. Adopt and sign. All right. So Tony has signed. Let me add. I'm going to add myself or go to my signature. So here we go. Please DocuSign. Review document. Click continue. Start. Sign. And you can see it added my name at the bottom, and then click finish. So we will click continue. Right, let me just quickly plug in my computer charger. All right. So I'm going to come back to my other tab of my envelopes. I'll hit refresh. It'll show that it's been signed. Perfect, completed. I'll come back over here to documents. Let me just give it a second to load. Let me come over here. Why is this? All right, that's weird. It's saying that Tony needs to sign. Oh, perfect, sorry. I didn't hit finish on Tony. All right, so let me come back over here. We should now be good to go. All right. What is happening here? It is saying that Tony didn't sign, so let me. Just double check this. All right. So now I just got the email showing that it was completed. Perfect. Now it's completed. I'll come back to the Documents tab. You can see here we have our signed amendment to agreement. Click on it. Here's our agreement 1. Now, if you're going to have multiple amendments, I would say you probably want to rename this. So we can rename this amendment to agreement. I'll add a 1 here. And then at the end, you can see where it said it adds automatically signed. So click save. So I'll click X to close out of that. So here we have amendment to agreement 1 signed, and then I still have my amendment to agreement form right here. So now let's say I have to go through and create amendment 2. So I'd click on this and it will open up the form that I can edit. So I would start updating this. So let's do 5/30/2020. Just update the text. Amendment 2, info goes here. More text here. Perfect. And then hit save and close. And then you'd go through the same process of sending an envelope to the seller to sign, and you would sign, and then you'd have another signed amendment to agreement, and I would recommend you resave that as amendment 2. Now you have your signed documents, let's add them to our opportunity in Command. So to do that, we go back into Command, and then we would select the documents that we want. So come over here, I will select the Community Association Disclosure and click Add a File. And then I select the DocuSign button, and it will show a list of all the documents that I have in DocuSign. So I'm going to add the Community Association Disclosure, which is right here. And you need to make sure that you select the one that says signed at the end of it, because here it will list everything that's in there. You need to double check and make sure it says signed at the end. So GAR Community Association Disclosure, signed. Click Assign. Perfect. Do the same thing for Seller's Property Disclosure. Click Add a File, select DocuSign, and then just scroll through the list till we get to the Seller's Property Disclosure, signed. Select that, and then click Assign. So that is the benefit of when you create a room out of Command, is that way you can attach your documents automatically. You don't have to download and then upload anything. All right. One thing I also really want to show you very quickly is how to make a document binding after the fact. So this by no means is the proper legal way to do it. But let's say you have, we have our amendment to agreement 1. I'll just pull this up and I will show this as a really quick example. You scroll down, we have our acceptance date. All right, well, this isn't on here. For example's sake, we'll pretend that the buyers have signed this as well, and I need to make it binding before I submit it to Lynn and Alita for review. So to do that, I will select the signed document and then click DocuSign. And then I'm just going to send this to myself. So as the agent, I'm going to click Add Recipient. And now because there aren't any places, pre-mapped places for this to sign, since it's a PDF, here is where you just click Room Participants. And I would select myself. And then hit Add Selected. Perfect. And then I'm not going to fill in an email. I'm just going to be real quick about it, and I'll hit Next. And then I will scroll down to the bottom, and I will add a text box here and just format that so it fits. And then I'll add another text box here. We'll just format that. And then I will add a date signed right here. Perfect. So what I'll do is I'll hit send, and this is going to send it to myself. So sending. And one of the benefits of when you send something to yourself in DocuSign is that you don't actually have to leave DocuSign. It will allow me to sign it right here. So what I can do is I can click on this envelope. It says needs my signature. And then I can click sign. And then I click continue, start, and now it'll allow me to fill in. So I'll select 11 a.m. and then it automatically puts the date right there. And then I will select finish. And this will save that. See, the envelope is completed. I'll come back to documents. And now we have amendment to agreement 1, signed. So this is going to be the one that I just made binding. Scroll down, you can see here it is accepted at 11 a.m. on 5/29. So that's kind of a workaround for making documents binding after the fact. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a compliance broker. I'm just showing you a workaround. Please adhere to all of Lynn and Alita's recommendations on how to make documents binding. So that was it for everything I wanted to show you. There was a question about adding a transaction coordinator or an admin to a room. So DocuSign is different in its permissions versus doc.loop. And we can't, at the moment, we don't have the ability to add transaction coordinators or admins to a room. But what you can do is if you are on a team and you work across multiple agents, or you want multiple, and so you want the Rainmaker to have access to all those rooms, what you can do is if you come to the People tab, select People, you can invite that Rainmaker to the team or to the room. So let's say I'm on a team, let's say I'm on the Lindy and Sarah group. I can click Invite, and then I can look up address book. I can look up directory, and I can look up Lindy Moore. Hit enter to select, and then select her, and then hit add selected. Now I'm not going to actually select her because I don't want an invitation to go out to her. So then I could invite her. I can invite Lindy into this room, and that would give Lindy the ability to participate in this room. And so what Lindy, for the Lindy and Sarah group, all those agents on her team or on the Lewis group or whichever team you are part of or you are a Rainmaker of, you would want to have the Rainmaker included in all those rooms, and then that Rainmaker can go in and see the activity and make any changes, and any admin or TC would then have to log in under that Rainmaker's DocuSign login information. I'm working with the MCA office and Hutch at the region to see if we do have the capability of adding admins in the future. But at the moment, inviting the Rainmaker to a room is going to be the best way that an admin has access to all the agents' DocuSign rooms. So I have another question. So the question is, can we invite our transaction coordinator into the room? So at the moment, transaction coordinators don't have DocuSign logins, only First Atlanta agents do. So it's, again, that's something I'm working with the MCA office to see if we can start adding logins for transaction coordinators. So at the moment, no, the transaction coordinator would have to log into your room through your login information. So I just covered a lot of information very quickly. What questions, what additional questions do you have? All right, let's see. And inviting the Rainmaker has to be done from every transaction room. That is correct. As of now, the way the permissions are set up, you'd have to invite that Rainmaker to every transaction room. Any additional questions I can answer for you this morning? Any best practices, any concerns you have? All right. Thank you all very much for joining me for our best practices for DocuSign. There's definitely a learning curve here. So as you are working in DocuSign, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Give me a call, text message, or email. I'm always here to help. And then this afternoon from 12 to 2, I'm doing open office hours. So I'll just be on Zoom for 2 hours answering all your questions, and I'll answer them the best that I can in the order in which people join the room. So I'll be there for the full 2 hours. Jump on, let me know what questions you have, and if you need any additional assistance, I'm happy to set up some one-on-one time with you as well. Have a great rest of your morning, and I will speak with you all soon. Thank you.